This week on Buffering, we are thrilled to be joined by Gina Shuler, who is the Vice President of Marketing at Home Telecom in South Carolina. I've had the pleasure of working with Gina for, probably almost 10 years now, Gina, in a number of different roles and capacities over that time frame. But she's got an amazing perspective, and she's always pushing her company forward. And yeah, we're just really excited to have Gina on Buffering today. And I have to tell my favorite Gina story, which Gina always gives me a hard time about this. But as Zach, as you know, I live in California wine country, and so many people come out to visit this lovely area that I live in. And oftentimes people are asking me like, "Hey, what winery should we check out? What restaurants should we check out? What are the cool towns we should check out?" So Gina, you and your husband came out here. I guess it was probably about a year ago, right?
Yeah, maybe two.
Okay, yeah, and I know you're excited to come back here at some
Yes.
point in the future too. So, and we'll have to get together for dinner
We'll fix
the
this
next time you
story.
come out.
We'll
Yes,
fix
we'll
this
fix the
story.
story. So the story here is Gina had come out and her and her husband were going around checking out all these different towns, and she got back and you and I had a call about something, and we were just talking about yours like, oh, we went around to all these lovely places, and we were in this little town called Healdsburg, and I'm like, that's where I live. And she goes, my husband was really hungry, and we found this little barbecue place. And I think you were saying that like the smells of the barbecue were just like wafting out and basically
Yes,
drew
it
him in.
reminded us of South Carolina. So we're like, we got to check this place out.
Yeah. So she tells me this whole story, and I'm like, you were literally on my street, Gina. She was like I don't even know, like probably a 10-minute walk from my house. And so I love giving her a hard time about this because I'm like, man, we could have totally gotten together and had some
I know.
barbecue.
I
And
know.
that is the one good barbecue place like around, because California barbecue is generally terrible. Anytime I travel to different parts of the country, the barbecue is a gazillion times better because they actually use fatty parts of meat and it's delicious. So yeah, South Carolina barbecue, definitely much better than California barbecue. But you guys did find the one good barbecue spot.
It was very good, but I promise we'll be back and I'll set up a dinner, meet your
Awesome.
wife. We'll have a good time.
Yes, indeed. We will. Can hit some wineries. It'll be a good time.
Gabe, I am no wine stand, but I do have my grape juice with me here for this early morning podcast. But Gina, welcome to Buffering. First time having you on. Can you give us a little bit of background about yourself and your role at Home Telecom?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to be here. I'm going to tell a story about my history, and it's going to give away my age, but I promise I'm not over 40. But I started with Home Telecom when it was Home Telephone, and I worked here during the summers when I was going to college. And that was back in late 80s, 1987. And my first job here was counting pay stations. And I don't know if anybody remembers pay phones, but that's what I did. The technicians would pick up the pay stations, bring them in, and I'd count the coins and take them to the bank. So that my history here is pretty extensive. And I started in 1992. There was no marketing department. I had my fresh, brand new marketing degree from Clemson University, and I started working here just part-time as a receptionist till I could find what I wanted to do. Come to find out, 3 months later, they decided they wanted to launch a long distance company. Long distance was very competitive at the time, so I was in the right place at the right time. So I was hired on as a marketing rep. And in 1994, we launched an internet company. In 2000, we became one of the first fiber to the home providers. In 2010, we were offering a gig, and here we are, 2025, and I'm still here because innovation and technology is constantly changing, so it never gets boring. So today I lead a team of 5 wonderful marketing professionals. We do our go-to-market planning, competitive analysis, develop marketing strategies, marketing campaigns, digital marketing, community engagement, and just having a great time.
This is going to be quite the conversation today because we started with payphones there for a second, it sounded like, and we're going to kind of shift into AI and how your company is using AI here in a few minutes. So this is going to be a very awesome conversation. And yes, Gabe, I could probably figure out how to use a payphone. I knew that question was going to come from you next.
I was going to ask Zach, have you ever actually used a payphone?
No, I have not. when I joined Calix, some of my colleagues were joking about the rotary phone and
Mm.
asked if I knew how to use one because at the time the trend was like, watching Gen Z, Gen Alpha try to figure these out. I've never used one. I could probably figure it out pretty quick on my feet, but I think this is going to be an exciting conversation. Sounds like you have just a wealth of experience.
Yeah, the time has definitely flown by, but it's been great.
Well, that's the fun part, Gina. When you're working in an organization that I think you and I mean, I've been to Calix a long time as well, and when you're at a company a long time, but you see that trajectory and you see the change that's happening inside the organization, it's really fun to be at a place that's growing, that's pushing, that's trying new things. You know, it's got to be wild just to think about the history of being there when they even launched internet, right? And what that
Whoa,
what that
in
was.
1994, it's like just the thought of it just now starting an internet company. It's just insane.
Totally. And I'm assuming that was all probably old DSL copper lines and, transition to different
Dial up.
technology over the
Yeah.
years. Yeah. Yeah. That fun little sound that we would always get when we got on the computer.
Yep.
Uh,
Competing against AOL.
Yep. And then those CDs that would come in the mail. Zach has no idea what we're talking about
Yes,
there
no
either.
clue. It's so
Yeah,
lost.
yeah, you lost me after the dial-up. I've been lucky enough. I've never had to dial into my internet. I've also never lived in a home with like a phone plug-in or like like a phone
Mm.
jack. So that might be where we're at today too.
That's hilarious. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, it's back in the day, Zach. It was AOL would literally send CDs, and it was timed, right? I think that's how it started, Gina. Is it was like you'd get so much time per month, and they would give you a free amount of time that you could spend online. Can you imagine? Not only like we laugh now that I should say laugh. Like there's some companies that still do usage caps, right? Like we see some organizations that do that. Um, can you imagine having a time cap on your internet? That's just so
That
wild to think about.
I mean, if you think about the time you spend online, whether it's on your phone, sending messages, or on TikTok, or working from home, Gabe, we would very much be in a bad situation there.
Yeah, we'd be in trouble.
Yep. I remember the marketing campaign where we launched unlimited dial up, and it was like a big to do because we were offering unlimited dial up.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a huge deal, and it was probably a big differentiator against some of the larger competitors. That's awesome. I love it. It's fun thinking about the history.
Yeah. But things are way more exciting now,
Yeah. Yes.
way
Exactly.
more competitive, way more competitive. Marketing is actually important now in the world driven by engineering.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, and I know we want to get into the AI stuff here in a moment around the AI search mode piece, but I'd love to hear your perspective on that, Gina, just for a moment around the shift that's happened inside the industry to be more of a marketing focus. Because I think you're right. Like there was so much focus on the technology, on the engineering, on the construction piece of our industry for a long time, and we are really starting to see this shift now to marketing is becoming really the most important thing to differentiate yourself against these large competitors. I know you're dealing with multiple large national competitors in your market. Would you mind just talking a little bit about kind of what that shift has been like and how you've pushed inside the company to to really have that marketing focus?
Well, here in where we serve is the Charleston region of South Carolina. So the population is nearing a million. We're at 850,000.
Wow.
And Berkeley County is where we're headquartered. And it's one of the numbers, the second highest growing county in the state. And these people are moving from, out of other states, even within South Carolina and the upstate, they don't know Home Telecom. So they go online and say, I'm moving to Moncks Corner, I'm moving to Daniel Island. Who should I select as my internet provider? And if we don't come up first, even if we do come up first, they still know Xfinity, they know AT&T Fiber, so they're going to pick them because that's what they're comfortable with.
Hmm.
So it's our job as marketers to really focus on that brand awareness and get our presence online. So where when people are searching, not only do they find us, which is hard in itself, but when they do find us, we say things that makes them be almost like a no-brainer. I have to try this company out. So
Hmm.
that's where, I mean, the engineers and the salespeople are very appreciative. If marketing doesn't get the leads in, you can build it, but they may not come because they don't know who we are.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an interesting point. We hear this, Zach. I'm sure you hear this from your customers as well. But this idea of they know the large national brands, even if they don't necessarily like the large national brands and they haven't had good experiences there, because those are the known names. If you've got, and we see this a lot with our customers who are serving areas that are growing significantly. People moving into these areas again. If they don't know your name, the likelihood of you getting that customer signed up diminishes. And that actually is kind of a perfect transition to the first conversation we wanted to have today, which was around AI mode search. And this is a conversation, Gina, that you and I had. We were together a few weeks ago in New Orleans at the NTCA event. And you mentioned that you'd listened to the podcast that Zach and I had done it was a couple of months ago, where we were talking about Google AI search mode. And Zach was talking about how he basically did two versions of the same search, one in traditional search and one in AI mode search on Google, and that the results were quite different if you were searching for things like best internet service provider in my area. And you went off and actually did some of that work
Yeah.
and actually started doing some of that. So could you tell us a bit about what happened when you did that and what you started noticing as you were, trying to be like the, average consumer and actually start to search these things out?
What I found was like I first started with Moncks Corner, South Carolina. We've been here since 1904. This is our headquarters. Surely we're going to come up. Well, I typed in, I'm moving to Moncks Corner, South Carolina. Who should I pick for my internet? And Xfinity came up. Xfinity serves 62% of Moncks Corner, offers speeds up to 2 gig. But if you're looking for a budget friendly option, you should check out Spectrum. And I'm like, well, where's Home Telecom? So you hit see more, and then you see things like HughesNet, Viasat, Earthlink, and then finally Home Telecom. And I'm like, oh no, this is, we've got to figure out what's going on. So I clicked on the link to the side to find out where's this information coming from. Broadband Now. And we've always struggled with Broadband Now to keep our information current. It normally says that we're a DSL provider. So then I tried other things like Cane Bay. Well, when I typed in a specific neighborhood, Cane Bay, Summerville, South Carolina, because we have so much content online about our partnership with Cane Bay, we were better. We still, AT&T Fiber still came up first, which ironically does not even serve Cane Bay, but at least we were second. And it mentioned fiber and we could serve up to 1 gig. But then it mentioned things like bundles. We don't do bundles anymore. So while we were at least there, the information was still not correct.
Mm. Yeah, and I think that's really that struggle of, and if you were doing that in traditional search, the results were quite different. Yes.
Right. Yep. Yep. And I have found that the AI traditional search was way worse. At least when I went to AI mode, it was better about mentioning references to reviews. Home Telecom is known for their great service, or Home Telecom may be the most expensive as a con, but their service they have many reviews about how great their service is. And then I could see from there they were pulling from Google reviews, our website, Facebook reviews. So it was a total different search area. But you still
Yeah.
have attention to both.
Yeah, I
Mm.
want to touch on that a little bit because I think one of the great things about, in this case, Google's AI search mode was the vast amount of data that Google has, whether it's from reviews, as you mentioned, or just websites in general. I think the Google reviews is a big one. When we had that episode a few weeks ago, we talked about how it was talking about the install process, the technicians, these high touch points customers have with your business. So I think that's just great how much data they're able to kind of bring into these queries as well. But I do want to expand more into how you're using AI in general as well. But seeing these problems, seeing what you ran into, maybe not quite the results you want to see on the AI search. Gabe and I also talked a little bit about some of the content changes BSPs can make to improve their results. Gina, since seeing these, have you made any changes to your content, your web strategy, or what have you done to kind of fix that problem with the AI search mode?
What we realize we have to do is put more blogs out there. We try to get a blog out there every week. And in these blogs, we reference all the communities that we serve down to the neighborhood names. Not only do we reference them, like moving to Daniel Island, make sure you look for these amenities, then we would backlink to Daniel Island because we know that's a popularly searched term when people are moving to South Carolina. So we're very, very scrappy, I guess is a word to use as far as writing our blogs. We want to make sure that we're outperforming the competition because we're local. We know all the special coffee shops, or we do videos with the yoga shop that we just signed up on Daniel Island, things like that to really help with that search. I've also found that you need to get old content off of like abandoned web landing pages because they'll pull things like, bundles, for example, was coming from older landing pages that were still housed out there, but we weren't using them. So we're doing a major cleanup to make sure that there's any old press releases out there, they're removed, because we did find one customer called in and did an AI search and saw a cable TV price that was in an old press release. So they wanted that price. So of course we gave them that price, but it came up and because of an old press release that was out on the internet.
I think that's super
so
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, like exactly, Gabe. Like after this podcast, I really just want to jump into AI search and ask maybe more product or service specific questions about a BSP and see what kind of results I get. When I did this testing for the podcast, I used my local fiber provider. That's kind of how I did that. But I would love to kind of see if I could get some of those old press releases, some of that legacy content from the website to see if it's still pulling that in. Because I think that's a great example of why you should make sure your content is up to date. You mentioned the blogs, the videos. I think it's a great way to use that long form content as well. I actually asked an AI tool about kind of a specific Calyx initiative that's public. It's on the website and everything. And it explained it very well, like exactly how we would talk about it internally. And then I just followed up with, how do you know this? Like, how do you know these responses? And the funny thing, it mentioned, it referenced videos from Connections even. So I thought it was interesting seeing the AI model leverage not only the text content, the web content, but video content as well. So that was just, I mean, I'm just a big AI. I think it's fascinating in general. But Gina, how else is Home Telecom using AI internally? Are you guys using any other tools or solutions?
We use Copilot here internally, and during the NTCA event that Gabe had mentioned, they had a great AI workshop. And I learned so much about prompting and how important the prompting is. And I think the term has been mentioned often about lazy AI and how you're going to get terrible results and how more than likely they're going to be wrong. So I learned a lot about just making press releases better. Like, you already have your press release written in your brand voice. Now, how can I make this stand out more to the younger generation? Is there specific terms that I could use that would generate more excitement from those under 30? So you just use what you would normally have and some good written content, train AI on what your brand voice is, and just make it better. So that's one thing that we're dabbling in right now.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
We're also using Google results and Google reviews are so important, is what we're finding. So we have collaborated with our technicians as well as customer service. Our technicians will take cards out and leave it and say, leave me a review. And that's what the customer sees as the technician. So when they leave a review, they're normally great. And we can determine, when we see a bad review, we immediately can jump on it in real time because of our relationship with GoCare and our partnership with their Pulse product. We can see any type of review or survey from the day before. And if you get a bad review, it is so important to try to get that customer corrected, call the customer and get that review removed. So that's something that we collaborate very closely with our technicians as well as our customer service team to help on that area.
Yeah, I think there's a few things I just want to top up there, Gina, that you mentioned that I think are great takeaways for people listening to this. That going back to the reviews comment just really quick, so important to make sure that you're getting good reviews. Like you said, responding to those reviews that may be negative, because Zach talked about this on the podcast that we did a few weeks ago, and he just touched on a little bit a couple minutes ago as well. Those reviews, that is one of the big things with AI search mode, is it's going to cull through all those reviews and pull the pros and cons out. So if you have that great, experience with the technician, and we see this a lot with a local provider who has those great local technicians who really care about the service that they're delivering, the reviews that are coming there are going to be generally very positive. So take advantage of that. Make sure that you're leveraging that. And that comment that you made about getting old content off, I think it's so important. Where so many times we focus on what is the new shiny thing versus what is the thing that we need to do to kind of clean up some of the legacy stuff that may be sitting out there. And that's such a great point of just making sure that you're going out and you're cleaning that up. And then the last point there that you mentioned was the video. So you mentioned doing a video with, I think you said, was it a yoga or a yogurt
Yoga.
store? A
Yeah.
yoga. Okay.
Yoga shop. Yeah.
I was like, maybe I'm just hungry. It's in the morning. And so I was thinking yogurt, but
They
yeah,
serve the
yoga shop.
yogurt shop next door too.
So there you go. You can go get yogurt and then go do some yoga. It's a
Yep.
wonderful combo. Having that video content, as Zach mentioned, that's another area where AI search mode is going to be really good, is going through that video content and pulling those specific data points out. So having that high quality video content makes a big difference as well. So it has that additional information to even go through and search through.
And one last thing there, Gabe, that I want to touch on is you mentioned the technicians and having those reviews. That oftentimes, as we've talked about before, is potentially the only touch point, a prospect or a subscriber may have with your BSP. I talked about when I got service, the only time I've ever talked to someone from my BSP is when they were in my home installing service, except for last week when I had to actually call them, Gabe, and move the service to my new apartment. But the only touch point I've had up to that point was them being in my home. So having that optimal experience and then having that positive review is going to go a long way, not only for AI but for your business in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I know we want to get into a little bit more of that detail later. Gina, you mentioned GoCare and the partnership you all have with them. I'd love to get into the weeds of that around thinking about those customer touch points. Before we jump there, though, I did want to talk a little bit about, this is an area where you've been pushing a little bit more lately, and I think it really aligns to the community aspect of what we've been talking about, and that's Smart Town. I saw a video that you did recently, and I think it was in partnership actually with like the Parks and Rec department, or the one of the local communities that you serve, and it was showing all of these ball fields. And as somebody who just wrapped up a Little League baseball season with my son, it's wild how terrible the connectivity is at the baseball fields. And you've got all these people there who are there for hours, sometimes all day if they've got multiple kids that are playing on different teams, and the connectivity stinks. And the everything from a scorekeeping perspective is done through this Game Changer app, which you need internet connectivity in order to do. So it's like this massive need where there's no connectivity at the field, and you guys are looking to address that with Smart Town. I'd love to hear a little bit more around what you all are doing there and how that's been positive. I know you've created some blog content as well as video content, but we'd just love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, Smart Town is really a game changer for us, and I'm so excited about it because we started with it in Nexton. And I mentioned Nexton earlier. Nexton is a master plan development in Summerville, South Carolina, and we were chosen to be their technology partner over Charter. I'd like to put that in. But we were chosen, and they're building about 8,500 homes, businesses. They've got 2,000 acres of trails and parks, and they currently have about 3,200 residents. Well, the cell service is not that great there. On top of that, as part of their technology partnership, we launch anything new there first. And we also noticed Comcast has been boring their fiber, headed in that direction. So we were thinking, what can we do as a competitive advantage? And Smart Town just came to mind. How perfect is that? So the way we deployed Smart Town in Nexton in the parks after turning up the Gigaspires in Nexton was to, if you're a Home Telecom customer, you can connect and you have this secure connection. Now, the visitors connect to the visitor network, but it's only for a short time period, and you have to continue reconnecting. But with the pass point architecture, once you set that up, you can connect anytime you're in any of the Smart Town areas, as well as we expand Smart Town. So that was a really huge competitive advantage that we felt like we had there in Nexton. Well, then we decided to go into the town of Mont's Corner because the same issues there. I mean, the cell service is bad. They needed a public Wi-Fi because of the new rec park that we have here. we're also the field sponsor for the Miracle League. So it's the Home Telecom Miracle League field within there. So it just made sense. So we partnered with them, had the rec field set up by opening day. And then we had so much fun with that because the marketing team went out there and we partnered with Paramount and they brought out SpongeBob, which was
Oh, that's so
so
cool.
fun. So, of course, the kids were wanting to talk to SpongeBob, which had their parents over there saying, "We got to get to the fields. Come on, come on." So, we were able to talk to them about have you connected to Smart Town and everything that it means there. Currently, we're moving down Main Street, Moncks Corner, to do the local high school. And the school district is so excited because they've gone to electronic ticketing, but it creates a major backlog because there's no cell service there either. It's really sketchy. So they're super excited about that, and we'll have that ready by the football season in the fall. So it's just really exploded. We've got people wanting us to come and connect SmartTown to their areas. Now we have turned up all of our Gigaspires, which is about 23,000. So we're getting a good coverage across our entire footprint. And I just asked our someone on my marketing team how many connections we've had so far because the numbers have been blowing me away. But as of today, we've had 2.4 million connections to our SmartTown network.
Wow.
2.4 million. And I'm just like blown away that they have that. But there's so many of our new areas that don't have cell service. So it's been really helpful for them.
Yeah.
So we're
Not in the
Yeah.
I'm not in the home telecom service area, but I've got to say I'm a little jealous now.
I know people are like, wait, I'm a home telecom customer and that's all I have. I could just connect to Smart Town, no charge. I'm like, absolutely. And it's not your average coffee shop Wi-Fi. It's protected. You can check your bank account and feel comfortable about it. So it's really doing well.
And that's one of the things I wanted to call out too, because I think of like going out in public, you have that either little to no cell signal. So the first thing you do is you see what Wi-Fi networks are available, and there could be anything, anyone's hotspots, perhaps some malicious, unsafe networks as well. So having that safe, secure network from Home Telecom, I think that's just a fantastic managed service. Like I said, very jealous I don't have that in my town.
Yeah, it's doing really well. And what I'm even more excited about is we're in the middle of deploying fiber to many rural areas. Yes, we're in very urban areas, but we still have our rural customers that were the foundation of our company. And through grants, we were able to develop roll out fiber to many of these rural areas. And with a partnership with the local chamber, they have 5 community hubs in very 5 remote areas. And we set up whether it's DSL, cable modem, or whatever, free hotspots at these community centers where the hospitals can come in and give, different trainings or health visits. Mental health comes in there, job service, just anything that because transportation is an issue in some of these rural areas. So they have a place to go. So what I'm excited about now is that we're rolling out fiber. And as we connect these community hubs to fiber, we can turn up Smart Town. And so that just expands it even more and it creates an even better experience because some of these hubs were working off DSL, which was not a good Wi-Fi experience. So I'm excited from both areas, both the urban areas as well as what it's doing for the rural communities.
Mm. Well, and this just feeds back into a lot of the stuff we were talking about earlier around content and reviews and all of those things that are going to feed back into that AI search mode. So as you're rolling these things out in the communities and you're talking about the specific communities that they're rolling back into, as you were talking about earlier, as people in Moncks Corner are searching for that, then all of that is going to feed into that nice Google AI search mode to hopefully help you show up a lot higher on the list in the future as well. So it's a virtuous cycle there also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one more topic here for the day, or one last thing, as Apple likes to say. I want to talk a little bit about that Wi-Fi experience you mentioned as well. A few months ago, we had a bit of a partnership here with the Success team where we leveraged some of that Engagement Cloud Plus demographic, psychographic data, and also that Service Cloud data to identify some of your systems that may not have had the best Wi-Fi experience. And we really looked at the technology persona to find the right people to upgrade their systems. Can you talk a little bit about this campaign and why it was so important for Home Telecom to do this?
Yeah. We're having a lot of fun with Engagement Cloud right now because with the new data, we can really pinpoint personas and figure out what it is that people are needing. But we're averaging around 800 new installs a month, and then finding that we were losing around 400 a month. So what can we do to save these customers? What is going on? So by using Engagement Cloud along with Service Cloud, we could see where the issues were, people were having bad experiences, and pinpoint the speeds that they need. But using traditional marketing doesn't always work. People are ignoring emails. So by partnering with GoCare and their Reach platform, we were able to send out text messages to these customers and say, we're just checking in. How is your experience? We already know it's bad, but just checking in. How is it going? And if you would like to increase your speed, or if you're having issues, click this link, and they can immediately either go to the eCare platform, sign in, and get an automatic upgrade, or complete a form, and a service rep would call them back. And it just really solidified what we already know, that text messaging and meeting customers where they are is the way to go, because our response rates, they 90% improvement on the response rates, and more than 75% of the people who took advantage of it responded within 2 hours. And our ROI on this particular campaign increased by 150%. So it was clear.
Yeah, a couple of things there, Gabe. We have to talk about the churn comment. Gina, I love the transparency we just had with the, hey, we gained X number of subscribers, because a lot of BSPs will stop the sentence right there. Hey, we gained 800 subscribers this month. Well, how many did you lose? So I love that that's the metric that you guys are looking at. You're tracking this, and you're using solutions like Engagement Cloud and GoCare to optimize your communications and reach out to these subscribers as well to kind of mitigate that churn.
Right. I mean, and probably in the next few months, we're going to cross 50,000 subscribers, which is just mind-boggling to me. But how can we keep these customers? How can we keep them happy? It's so hard to acquire a new customer. Like I mentioned, trying to get people to even know who we are. Let's keep our current customers happy, really focus in on them. And Engagement Cloud, I feel like a commercial, but Engagement Cloud helps us do that, because we can see what kind of experience that they're having and get in touch with them quickly to prevent the churn.
Well, that's just to hit on that. It's something that Zach and I are always encouraging our customers to do, is think about that big base of subscribers that you already have. Yes, you're right. You spend so much money to acquire a customer. It's so important to continue that conversation throughout the entire journey. And that is something, yes, you're using tools to do that, but frankly, when we have these conversations with broadband service providers, a lot of time they're not even thinking that way of, I need to continue this conversation. So love the fact that you're using data and software to do this, but just even having that mindset of, I need to stay in touch with these customers to keep them happy, is something that it just like warms my heart. I just love to hear it. It's good. It's really good.
Yep. Between that and the Google reviews and making sure that they're happy and catching things quick as we see that, I mean, it all just, it comes together in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's that, again, that virtuous cycle, to use that word again, of, you're continuing that conversation with your customers so that they are continuing to provide that positive feedback, which then feeds back into the, positive reviews, which then feeds into more customers hopefully signing up. And I mean, getting to 50,000 customers is a massive feat, Gina. I'm trying to remember, like, I feel like you were like 30 or 35,000 when we started working together, a while back.
Like more around 20,000.
Yeah, you might have been right.
We've doubled our business in the last 5 years.
Wow,
and
that's so crazy.
That's been organic. Like I mentioned, I read a statistic last week that 42 people are moving into the Charleston region per day. So a lot of the growth is organic, but we're not getting all of those 42 that's moving in it per day. So it's just mind-boggling to me that we're about to hit 50,000.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Have a big party. Have to do something.
Yes, you absolutely should.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Gina, thank you for joining us on Buffering today. And thank you, everyone, for tuning into Buffering. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast app and to share it with your friends and colleagues. And for more insights and updates, be sure to connect with us on LinkedIn.